Welcome to Anti-Fiction. This is a weekly nonfiction podcast where each week I, Christian Yates, pick a topic and then invite two guest hosts to come and talk about that topic. My very sleepy guest hosts this week are Andy Mattingly.
Hello.
And Matt Yates.
Hello.
Back for his first episode in fucking, 13 weeks I think it's been?
Back from the dead, assholes.
Right? So our topic this week is pirates. Had I thought about this more, I would have done this episode for International Talk Like a Pirate Day back in September.
No.
Wait, that was a thing?
That's a thing. You didn't know that's a thing? Yeah, it's the 19th of September, I think.
Oh, wait, yeah, that was like a bigger thing when like you could switch your Facebook theme or something. You can still do that?
Yeah, you still can.
That's still a language option.
It was a bigger thing for me in high school, I think.
I found out on like that day because people were just posting screenshots of their Facebook and pirate.
Nice. So that's our topic, pirates. So I chose a pirate who some of this might be a little bit exaggerated.
Yeah, it's pirates.
But it's
obviously.
So, so in 1775, Ching Shih was born. She was a Cantonese madam in a floating brothel, which is awesome.
So is that the first form of exaggeration?
Right. It was a floating. It's a sea brothel.
It's the castle in the sky.
Well, it's on the sea. Yeah.
Right.
I can't think of a funny ocean pun brothel name, but their slogan could be like, "Come get crabs at this brothel" or something. Come catch crabs.
Something about a pearl necklace.
Something. Yeah, there you go. Something like that. Anyway,
you guys are so almost funny.
Oh, thanks. It's nice to know I'm getting there.
Right. So she later married the notorious pirate Ching Shih in 1801.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I know, right? So he was a very successful pirate, very powerful pirate family. Literally, his entire family, all pirates. So imagine going to Thanksgiving with those in-laws. Am I right? Almost funny.
Almost.
Anyway,
I'll let you know.
So some sources say that their marriage was a business strategy, and so he was like, "Oh, here's this really successful, like brothel madam," and apparently those business tactics are going to translate well to piracy. So this is a marriage of, convenience, but I don't know. The other sources disagree with that. But she did help in all of her husband's pirating endeavors.
Why couldn't it be both?
Right. Why not marry for love and then as a side bonus?
Yeah, it's probably the other way around. Why not marry for business and then fall in love later due to close proximity?
Maybe.
Why do either?
But she also
Both
got
or
a 50% share in all pirating activity.
Oh,
right?
man, he should have got a prenup.
So they split it 50-50. Right.
Sign on the dotted line, please.
Then they adopted Chung Po as their son and made him Cheng Yi's legal heir. They later had 2 biological children together. So here's the thing. It's going to be important later on to know that in China, adopting adults was a common practice. Like, this wasn't a kid.
Okay.
He's an adult.
That they adopted. Okay.
Like, he was a fisherman's son, and, like, apparently adopting adults is just a thing that people did at this time in China. That's going to be important to what I'm going to tell you later on. So Chung Po is their legal heir now to the pirating empire. By 1804,
oh no, I see where it's going.
By 1804, their pirate coalition became known as the Red Flag Fleet and was one of the most powerful fleets in all of China. Not just pirates, but fleets just in general. Like, it rivaled the military
right.
of China. 3 years later, Cheng Yi died in Vietnam, either due to assassins or a tsunami. We don't know.
One or the other. It could be a tsunami assassin.
It was
actually.
definitely one of the two, probably.
Right. He was
That's
covered
my
in
favorite.
water and definitely dead.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part about all these pirates I looked at. Is like
Right.
questionable death circumstances, and some of them were like, and we don't even know that they died. Maybe
Right.
they're not.
He's still roaming
They're
around, you know?
Yeah, they could still be among us. But anyway, so he died either way. So at the time of his death, the fleet numbered 400 ships with 70,000 sailors. Now this left the Red Flag Fleet without a commander. And luckily, Ching Shih was more than happy to step up. She married her stepson.
Oh God.
Again, it's important to me that you knew that at the beginning that he was an adult.
That's still weird.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, what?
I mean, it's not as weird, but
It's so weird.
It's a little weird.
Still, I'd say it's even more than little.
Right. It's
So-
like adopting like a 17-year-old from another country and being like,
Yeah, and
Hey.
then this is my son husband.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
my
promise we're not
husband.
related.
So she named him captain of the fleet, which had helped solidify her husband's family's loyalty, her late husband, not her new husband, and
Her
placed
early
herself.
husband.
Right. And then she placed herself as commander. Now, so there wasn't, in the Eastern culture, there wasn't that kind of stigma about women being bad luck on ships
Okay.
that there is in Western culture. But it was still uncommon for a woman to be in charge. So basically what she did is placed him as captain, so that way they would be answering to a man and nobody would be like, oh, I'm not taking orders from you. But then all of his orders were coming directly from her as commander. So she was the one controlling everything, but as far as the face of the organization, it was Chung Po. She then devised a code of laws that the fleet had to adhere to. Again, Chung Po is credited with establishing this code, but she's the one that came up with it and then handed it to him, and then he's like, look at this cool thing I invented, because men.
Right.
Yeah. So firstly, anyone giving their own orders, ones that did not come down from Ching Shih, or disobeyed those of a superior, was beheaded on the spot. You're going to notice a lot of beheadings. Second, no one was to steal from the public
Wait,
fund.
hold on. That's the only way you knew how they died. Everything else was really questionable.
Well,
That's
found
why they
his
had to
head on a
behead them.
pike.
So we
probably
think-
disobeyed the commander, or it was a tsunami.
or tsunami.
Still could've
Just a
been.
really spiteful
still could have been.
tsunami.
It was the same.
You know,
tsunami.
the
just
wind.
stalks the water.
So tsunami assassin.
So the second rule was that no one was to steal from the public fund or any villagers that supplied the pirates. So everything that they pillaged and conquered and everything, it was all put into a public fund, and then it was divvied up as needed or used to supply unsuccessful pirate ships and what have you.
So I forgot for a minute what we were talking about, because I was like, what if they just didn't steal? And then I was like, oh, that's their thing.
That's
wait.
kind of the whole point.
What, you mean like a real business?
This here's an enterprise. It's a car rental company. Anyway, so third, all goods taken as booty had to be presented for group inspection. The booty was then registered by a purser and distributed by the fleet leader. The original Caesar received 20%, and the rest was placed into the public fund. So, like, a very organized system for dividing up loot, I think. Like, personally,
They
like,
figured
if
it
I
out,
was going to
yeah.
be a pirate, I would want to be a pirate in this crew.
Right.
I'm just saying.
It actually paved the way for modern MMOs. Too.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. EA Games took a lot from this...
From their players.
from their players.
Another pirate story.
Yeah, there you go. For another time. Actual money was turned over to the squadron leader, who only gave a small amount back to the Caesar, so the rest could be used to purchase supplies for unsuccessful ships. The punishment for a first-time offense of withholding booty was severe whipping of the back. I love doing a pirate episode because I get to say the word booty so many times.
You already say that word so often.
I do.
I like the term withholding booty.
Withholding booty.
You know, I've been withheld booty, all right?
So for your first time offense of withholding booty, you were severely whipped on the back. Large amounts of withheld treasure or subsequent offenses carried the death penalty.
Dang, they were not playing with the booty.
No, they were very serious about their booty. So a lot of times when they pillaged a village and took all the booty, they would also take the women and children to be sold into slavery.
See,
right?
That's where pirates stop being fun.
Yeah, that's the less awesome part of piracy.
I mean, it's profitable, you know?
Well, sure, yeah. It's still booty one way or the other. Anyway, so, I'm going to hell for that. So
I'm going to hell for this.
So they would, they would go into the village, they'd kill all the men, and then they'd take the women and children, and then they would sell them. So pirates that raped female captives were put to death. But if pirates had consensual sex with captives, the pirate was beheaded, and the woman he was with had cannonballs attached to her legs and was thrown over the side of the boat.
Oh, that's good.
Right? So that's exciting. Don't fuck on the pirate ship, I guess. So I guess you could, a lot of times they would, the most attractive ones, pirates would take for wives or concubines or what have you. And then they would just release the ugly ones. So this was a great time to be ugly. And then the attractive ones they would keep and then sell. And then if you fucked one of the merchandise, then
you don't try your own good, you know,
yeah,
you don't.
Yeah. So the fleet robbed towns and villages from Macau to Canton, and in the Sanshan village, they beheaded over 80 men, then abducted the women and children and sold them into slavery. In 1808, the Chinese government decided to intervene. So at this point,
just now,
the government was like,
problem,
all right,
you know?
I think they've gone too far. Probably.
Maybe.
You know, that 81st beheading.
They fought several fierce battles that Ching Shih always managed to win. So, brilliant military tactician, always winning. And then she would seize control of the government ships, increasing the fleet size.
God, I love her. I mean,
yeah, I know,
she's
right?
the worst, but
just every battle, it's kill the guys on the ship, take the ship, send a couple guys over, and then now we control another ship. So they continued doing this, and in 1809, they captured Richard Glasspool of the East India Company, which is a fucking company that pops up in all kinds of fucking pirate stories. They're very popular in the Pirates of the Caribbean film franchise. A lot of the people are from East India. So they captured Richard Glasspool, and he was held in their captivity for 2 months. And when he was finally released, he estimated that the size of the fleet was 1,000 large ships with 800 smaller vessels and a crew of 80,000 pirates.
Wow.
Yeah.
It really is a small army.
Immense. Yeah. Just a little bit of comparison for you. Blackbeard, one of the most famous pirates,
Of course.
had 30 ships in total.
Wow.
In his fleet. At the time, the British Royal Navy had 500 large ships. Her fucking fleet was twice the size of the British Royal Navy. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, sellers sell, you know?
So for years, the Red Flag fleet could not be defeated, neither by the Qing dynasty nor by European bounty hunters who were contracted to kill all of the pirates. They would just commission Portuguese
Watch
bounty
Boba Fett
hunters.
go over there and just say, fuck that.
Right? He's like, there is 1,000 ships over there, my dudes. I'm not fucking with this.
You know, I'm one person.
So for years, they just were not defeated. But then in 1809, not 1909, they suffered a series of defeats by the Portuguese Navy, and eventually they were forced to surrender to them in 1810, but they were able to accept amnesty from the Qing imperial government. They agreed to end their careers, but they would be allowed to keep all of their loot.
That is the best way that could have worked
right.
out for them.
Well, not for the people I'm about to mention. So this amnesty allowed only 60. So 60 pirates were banished from the Qing Empire. 151 were exiled. I don't know how that's different. And then 126 were put to death. Out of the entire fleet, though, that's still, 300 people out of 80,000. So that's not bad.
Were they just like the worst ones?
Right. They were like, we're going to put, 300 people on either banishment or death is what's going to happen. And she's like, oh, put this fucking ship right here. It's the least successful one. Yeah. These are the worst pirates I've ever seen.
That's not what I meant by worst. I meant like the most
kills. The most terrifying, the evilest pirates. You have no idea how many women and children they enslaved.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Not bad at enslaving.
I think they just probably picked them at random. They were like, all right, that guy, and then these three guys over here look shady.
A large game of drawing straws.
Oh, my God.
So the remaining pirates only had to surrender their weapons.
No. Wow.
That was it. That's the whole amnesty. And
it's a mighty fine sword.
All of their loot. Right? So now that, the Qing imperial government has all of these pirate weapons, and they're like, cool, and then probably they get all the ships, I imagine, too, because their pirating careers are over. So, win-win for everybody, really.
Right. Now they can join a legitimate business.
Well, not the 300 people who were either banished or killed.
Right. Or both.
Yeah. So Ching Shih and Cheng Po had their mother-son relationship dissolved and were legally married by the Qing government.
Wait, so this whole time they were riding around without a legal marriage?
Well, because
that's the most ridiculous part of this story.
So probably a captain.
But it wasn't like backed up by any country.
No.
So
legally,
they were just married.
Listen,
in their hearts.
I saw it in a Pirates movie. All right.
Yeah.
Is marriage not?
Captains can do that.
Oh no, I guess some people it's a religious thing, right?
Right.
So I guess Well, no, but I mean they didn't seem very religious.
It wasn't like recognized by the Chinese government. Though.
Okay. I mean that's the important part about marriage, isn't it?
Yeah, being recognized by the government. Yeah.
I thought it was putting it on Facebook.
That's the second most important part. But when you put it on Facebook, that is the government recognizing because the NSA is tracking all of that. Wear your tinfoil hats everywhere, kids. So her husband's son became later he became a captain in the Qing Navy. So he went straight. He went on the straight and narrow. Now he's a military man for the government. Ching Shih used her loot to open up a gambling house, and after Cheng Po died at sea, she moved in with her family in Macau and got involved in the salt trade there. And then she served as a military advisor to Lin Zexu during the First Opium War in 1839, and then eventually died in bed at the age of 69.
Yeah, she did.
So it's not quite the pirate's retirement that I feel like a lot of pirates get.
Right.
But she ended up living pretty decently long life after her pirate career ended.
How long was she a pirate?
She was a pirate for 10 years, 9 years. So,
and now her watch is ended.
Yeah.
I think that's like a long time to be a pirate.
It
though.
is, yeah.
I mean I'd love to see the time for or like the average lifespan of a pirate.
Yeah.
It's like 6 months.
Well,
it's all just 6 month old.
One raid.
6 month old pirates.
I do think that a lot of
baby
like pirates really only do it for a couple years and then either just quit or
one
get killed.
Big score.
No, it's like The Godfather. You don't get out of the game.
Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. But anyway, so that's the story of Ching Shih, the most badass fucking Chinese pirate ever of all time.
Ever,
probably, yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe China's turning out newer, better pirates. So, but I haven't followed up since
right. $1 million
since 200
pirates
years ago. Yeah, $1 million pirates.
Right.
They got 10,000 ships in their armada. But anyway, so that's my story. Matt, you said that you had a depressing story, so why don't you go next?
Okay, so it's not as depressing as it is like you'll probably shift how you feel about the story during the middle of it. And
it's a pirate. What way am I going to start and which way am I going to end?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. You'll forget where you stop and I begin. But so, have you guys heard of the online game Eve?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
so,
like MMO space game. Yeah.
So it's a space-based like MMORPG that like you can pretty much do whatever you want in that game.
Sure.
As long as it's related to space, I guess. Like activities including like mining, piracy, of course.
Right.
Manufacturing, trading, exploration, combat, and many other things that you can do.
Is your story about the fucking pirates in this video game right now?
We're getting there.
It's called anti-fiction.
Okay. So here's the thing, though, is that like the piracy is real in this game, right? Because like everything is worth real money.
Okay.
Because of the in-game trading system, you could literally finance yourself through playing this game.
Interesting.
Right. There and I don't know all of the intricacies of it, but there's currencies in the game that you can purchase and you can sell them for real life money, right?
Oh, wow.
So there are a lot of times where the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah, they're real.
Sure.
Right. And it's a little bit more than just a game in a lot of ways.
It's a way of life.
There's actually probably the biggest story with this game comes with like a $35,000 capital fight that happened.
Okay.
Where like it literally destroyed fleets and armadas of ships that cost people thousands of dollars.
Shit.
Right. Which I encourage people to go read that on their own time. But we're talking about one of the game's oldest professions, and I do not mean the other P word. It is piracy.
Sure.
So
do you mean stonemason? That's the oldest profession.
Right. Wheel maker.
Yeah. There you go.
So, like, players are. It's a large community of people that take to stealing people's shit to make a living for themselves in this game.
Okay.
As opposed to creating things and finding things and selling things on a market. So people just steal from each other at times, and some people form raiding groups, pirate factions.
Okay.
Right? And they band together in like a loot sharing system, right? Like real pirates, and just decimate people, steal their shit, and then make money that way. This story is specifically about one of the most famous pirate factions. They're called the Amamake Police. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but that's how I'm going to say it for the rest of the show, because they don't have a pronunciation guide. So the Amamake Police, right, they are a group of EVE Online's most elite pirates. And specifically, we're talking about a person, I'm pretty sure this is their like EVE Online name, but I could be wrong because it's like a person's name. Everyone else is referred to in this article as their like username.
Okay.
So Samantha Myth it's this one guy who pulls a such an incredible heist.
Okay.
Oh, man.
That it's and we'll get there. All right.
Okay.
So so this guy, he spent 16 months undercover.
Okay.
Infiltrating this organization with the sole intent of stealing from them. Right.
Okay.
Oh.
So he spent 16 months collaborating.
Real life months, not in-game months.
Yes,
Okay.
real life months. Yeah, like real time. 16 months he spent like undercover, kind of doing missions and piracy schemes with them.
Sure.
So
this is a pirate organization. In the
right,
game.
and it's
Okay.
one of the most famous or notorious groups in the entire game. They're basically just combat junkies who intentionally use really expensive ships because it's more thrilling in combat. Because again, like, you're potentially losing real money, like, in a lot of real money, because they would compete in these tournaments where you get these one of a kind ships, right?
Okay.
And those were more rare than some ships that you'd consider, better or more useful, just because there's only one type of that ship, or, that's just so unique in a specific way. It was worth so much money. So they did it for the adrenaline rush. It's like a thrill. And it's very important that we realize that these ships are very, very expensive. I wish they would have put some sort of real life monetary, the exchange
Value.
rate, right?
Yeah.
The value of these ships on here, because again, like, it can get up into the thousands of dollars for some of these things, right? So
I was feeling bad, but I don't anymore. 'Cause imagine having that kind of money to spend on a video game.
Yeah.
right.
Well,
I mean, it's not like people just dropped $1,000 in a game. It's some people earned it, So you can go back to feeling bad.
Okay.
But
No, I still don't. Fuck 'em.
right.
Whatever. I just had to tally up all my student loans the other day to see if I could swing grad school. Now these fuckers are whatever.
right. Well, you start playing EVE Online, and then
Right, and then you
join
can pay
a
for it.
pirate
With my
organization.
student loan
Right,
money.
Right. So our hero of the story, Samantha Myth, he always had this dream of, stealing one of these ships.
Yeah.
Just because they're so high priced, they're valuable. And he wanted to make a cool story on Reddit.
As anybody who does anything wants.
Oh, right, of course, it's all for the karma. So what he did before the heist started, right? The 16-month heist. He parked a relatively cheap electronic warfare frigate that with the capability of jamming ship sensors.
Okay.
He parked it inside of their ship, right?
Okay.
And just waited for a while until he saw in the public chat inside the ship that they were about to go on a raid or something, and then he just was like, "Hey, I'll help," and
Okay.
That's just kind of how it started, kind of like a parasite, but
Yeah.
meh, semantics. So he parks himself inside the ship, goes on a raid, and starts befriending these people, right?
Okay.
And kind of gaining their trust, and a few months later, he had reached an inner circle of the organization. He was providing intel for them, and brought down a rival ship that was 130 billion of the in-game currency.
Okay.
That was the loss for the faction that they fought against.
Okay.
And he provided intelligence for that. Once he got into that inner circle, right, he started testing his luck, right, and trying to prove his loyalty as well.
Okay.
So there's a non-written rule of the game that unless you're really, really good friends with somebody and trying to help them out or something, you don't do one-sided trades.
Okay.
Most things are going to be mutual. It's just kind of an unspoken thing. You're going to pay me what this is worth.
Sure.
Don't scam me. It's just kind of that respect thing for players. Well, what he did, the leader of the group, he traded him one of the Alliance ships for nothing. Right? He just gave it away. And so he was just trying to build that trust, and just sends the ship away, and so he's quoted in the article saying it was probably one of the scariest things he had ever done in his EVE career, And because like you never know what could come from that.
Right.
It could not have helped him at all. They could have just taken his ship, killed him, and then sent him on his way.
Sure.
But it's just like these high intensity things that that he needed to do in order to solidify that trust within the organization. So after he had gotten the ship back, right, from a few weeks, he let him use it and everything. He goes back to the leader. His name is TikTok, right?
Sure.
That's his gamer name, right? He goes and tests his luck here and asks to borrow one of like the big main ships, right?
Yeah.
And so 2 days later, after borrowing it, he tries to do the same. He does the same thing with another guy in the game. His name's Casper24.
Okay.
And asked to borrow another equally expensive frigate.
Okay.
So Casper parted with the ship without demanding another frigate because of that initial trust that that Samantha Myth had put into the organization. So they're like, okay, yeah, we trust you without, you don't need to give me any capital. Yeah, right? Yeah, we know you're good for it. And so he takes it even further and asks another Amamake police pilot to borrow their jump freighter, which is a massive and very expensive hauler that can travel between systems without using a Stargate, which is important.
Okay.
Because hours later, he was safely docked up in Eve's largest trading hub with 300 billion in-game currency worth of ships.
Okay.
So he just has all this crap now and he's like light years away, and it took a few days for the leader to even realize what had happened because he started seeing his ships on the trade market.
Oh my God.
Right?
Oh my God.
So he had messaged Samantha. Again, this is after 16 months of raids, the just trials and tribulations. He messaged him. He's like, "Is this a joke? Like what is actually happening here and everything?" But so he sent him a link that Samantha had posted on Reddit detailing the entire heist, and you can go find that on Reddit.
Holy shit.
Right. Again, it's Samantha Myth. Go look it up. So he posts on Reddit, and so everyone's realizing, oh shit, we've been duped.
Right.
And they didn't have the money to buy the ships back because it's so expensive, right? You shouldn't even be able to get those in the first place kind of money.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially at the upticked rate that he was selling them at, they couldn't afford it. So they banded together with a really trustworthy trade broker, to get the ships back, and started a fundraising campaign so that they could afford it and buy them back. But the ship was sold off to a random bidder.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
You were my brother.
Right. So all that, and the ship goes to this random guy, but then the next day, TikTok gets a message from a random dude named Kobold Symbian, who is the greatest Samaritan of the story, who had just bought the Kremoa ship, the big frigate with his personal ship, and offered to give it back to the organization in exchange for another ship. Right.
Oh my God. Okay. All right.
So they had raised the money to get another ship, and again, it wasn't so much that he wanted a ship; it's more he wanted his ship back, because the way that the ships work is everything you do to them stays
right. Sure. Yeah.
Right. So he had
modify it.
Right.
To the next owner. Yeah.
Of course. So he just wanted that ship back. So they banded together and got it back. So here's kind of the sad part of the story, right? because all of this is done through like an interview style and everything, so we get to hear a little bit of commentary from Samantha Myth and a little bit from TikTok. And so TikTok in the Reddit post updating everyone on the situation is quoted as saying, Samantha Myth has shown me the dangers of trust, but also the power of friendship. Long-term friends can stab you in the back at any moment without reason or consequences. At the same time, those who have the opportunity to, but choose not to, have proven themselves to be true friends who I hope to keep in contact with long after EVE Online shuts down. After being asked if he'll ever lend out another ship again, he said, I probably won't be giving them out, but that's not so much the fear of losing the ship, but the fear of losing another friend. And that's what affected me the most. Right? Because like in the article they talk about like how they both really shared the same passion for the game, and it wasn't so much as doing all these big things. It's more of they get bored easily, so they like to do these small little things, and they just kind of like they played the game the same way. So it's kind of heartbreaking.
That is.
Right.
I really thought when you got to the guy who bought the ship, I thought that it was going to end with that was another like alt account of Samantha Myth, and I was like, oh god, what I thought was going to happen is it was bought. He was doing the same thing to a different organization and then took it and then sold it a second time. That's what I thought was about to happen.
That would have been the greatest size of all time.
That would have been the... Listen, Samantha Myth, if you're listening.
Right.
There's
there is another really famous heist story in EVE Online, but I will save that for a heist episode because it doesn't have anything to do with piracy.
Right. That's incredible, though.
Yeah.
I'm so sad.
Right.
Well, I learned a lot about trust and friendship on this journey, and now I don't have any friends or trust. So.
But I do have my ship, so come after me.
Yeah. Come at me, bro.
Right.
Oh, man.
I don't need trust or friendship. I've got a frigate the size of a moon.
Right. I'd love to hear like an update on the story. Like, where are they now? You
right.
know?
Yeah.
Because like in the article, like during interviews and everything, Samantha Myth, like he's still like he basically said it like, I didn't do it because I hate him. I did it for the lulz, basically.
Yeah.
Like, he's basically just talking up TikTok as one of the best players in the game.
Right.
And he's like, it's just incredible that I even pulled this off.
Right.
But like, thanks for the karma on Reddit. It's pretty much what the whole article's about. It's like, he did it for the shigs,
Yeah.
Damn.
Shit. That's awesome.
That's rough.
Well, Andy,
Yeah.
you probably have a pirate story for us, right?
I do.
Hopefully a little
really?
bit more heartwarming than...
It's kind of sexy.
Ooh.
All right. I like a sexy pirate
Right.
story.
How did you know that's
and
what I'm
all
into?
of our listeners are suddenly fully attent.
Pitched it.
I'm going to tell this whole story, and you're going to wait for the sexy part to get here, and it's not.
And it's, okay.
I think it's...
Oh, can
I
we
think
hear
it's,
you on the mics?
No, we probably can't. Mike
I
said,
reacted
and it's
to
never
Mike's
going to
joke.
come, and that's a pun
I don't
on the
get
word
it.
never.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so mine's not like really one pirate. It's more of a pirate situation. So
Pirate situation.
A scenario, if you will.
yeah,
A
shenanigans.
scenario.
Oh, a
Yeah.
scenario. Yeah, you're the
Stop.
worst.
I'm almost funny.
Almost funny.
We're getting there.
Okay, so first I'm going to tell you a little bit about Anne Bonny. She was born probably in 1697.
Sure.
Could have been another year though, around 1700.
Or a tsunami killed her.
Yeah. She was born of a tsunami. When, we don't know. She was born in Ireland.
Okay.
Her mother's name was Mary Brennan, and her father was a lawyer who was married to not Mary Brennan.
Ooh.
Yeah, his name was William Cormac. Cormac?
Sure.
Probably Mac, if we're
Probably
going
Cormac.
Ireland.
Yeah, that's probably right. That's a good point. So basically, William Cormac takes Mary and then his daughter, and they move to London, which is when he starts dressing Annie as a boy and calling her Andy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
so,
that's your name.
Big mood.
Big mood.
And shortly after they moved to London, Cormac's Cormac's wife, finds out about it and like cuts him off from all of his fucking money, right? But he's a lawyer, so he's doing pretty well. But she cuts him off, so he takes Mary, and she's back to Anne now, and they move to what is now present day North Carolina in the States. But it was still the province of Carolina then. And so they are trying to like, blend into their new town here, not in Ireland. And he tries to become a lawyer, but it doesn't really work out just from like prejudice and his inability to stick to one place.
Sure.
So he ends up
setting up franchises all over the province of Carolina.
Right. So he ends up purchasing a plantation.
Okay.
Which then does earn him a substantial fortune. So this all happens by the time Anne is 12. When she's 13, her mother dies. So it's just her and her father. So she's been described as having a fiery temper, which I think is adorable because she's like this little Irish teenager, red hair, fiery temper. It is not adorable when you consider the antics they consider fiery is she was prone to stabbing servant girls.
Oh, God.
So not so much fiery
that is
as...
the fieriest.
Yeah.
She's adorable until she gets a hold of a butter knife. And
Right. This game over. So then she marries a poor sailor who's also like a kind of low-key pirate but not very good at it, named James Bonny. So James married her in the hopes of getting her father's estate. That pretty much backfired on him, though, because marrying James made Anne's father disown her. So that was pretty much over at that point, his dreams of being rich off that man's death. So then there are rumors that after she was disowned and kicked out of the house, that she set fire to her dad's like entire
There's
plantation.
that fiery Irish temper again.
I know.
Right.
But nothing
I'm
actually...
surprised she didn't stab them.
But
Damn it, where does she
actually...
keep getting all these hat pins?
Yeah. But yeah, nothing really... There's nothing to prove that actually happened. So that's more just rumor, but I hope it's true. It just seems funny. So then sometime between like 1714 and 1718,
Mm-hmm.
She and her husband moved to New Providence Island, to a city that was a sanctuary for English pirates. They called it the Republic of Pirates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not terribly creative, but very free.
Right. So James pretty quickly became an informant for the governor.
Yep.
So he would report on what the other pirates were doing and get them arrested, which Bonnie did not like.
Well, yeah,
Right,
she's
she
got
wanted to
thing
marry
for
a
pirates.
full-blooded
Right.
pirate, you know?
Yeah, right. So while they're there, she meets Anne Bonny meets Calico Jack.
Okay.
Yeah, who's like
famous pirate.
Yeah. And Calico Jack pretty quickly offers James money to divorce Anne so that he can be with her. And James doesn't do it, so they just run away together.
So he kills him.
Yeah, so so Calico Jack.
Take a ride on my boat?
Yeah, right. So I mean, they're already like together, really. So Anne and Calico Jack leave, and they disguise her as a man on his ship, as just another member of the crew.
Could you imagine someone walking in on that?
Right, like...
I heard some rumors about the
I'm
captain.
sorry, Captain Jack. I didn't mean to disturb your...
I know the long nights on the sea.
private recreation. I just...
Right. So we're gonna stop there for a minute. We'll meet back up to that part of the timeline later.
Ooh.
But now we're gonna switch over to my girl Mary Read.
Mary Read.
Yeah. So she was born in 1685. Also, what then would have been, considered an illegitimate birth.
So they've already got a lot in common.
Yeah.
Damn.
So her mother had married a sailor and had a son, but then her husband disappeared at sea, and so then... Okay, also I want to say, if your husband disappeared at sea, especially at this time, he's fucking dead, right?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah.
So having
She
another
ain't coming
kid
back.
should not count as whatever. Anyway, it still counted as an affair, which I think is outrageous, but whatever.
Listen, once you're married, you're married. It doesn't matter
Unless you
how
get
many
divorced.
tsunamis
Yeah,
got him.
Right. tsunami or
Yeah, but at this
wildfire
time-
or stabbing,
At this
Yeah,
time, you
this
could
is
only
in
get a divorce if
16
you were the king of England.
Like the end of the 1600s.
and you beheaded your wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's dead. Yeah.
Yeah. What can you do?
I don't know. I mean, I
So,
just walk in one day.
shortly after Mary's mother becomes pregnant with her, her son dies, right?
Okay.
So Mary's mother naturally disguises Mary as her dead son so that nobody finds out what
Sure.
she did.
Yeah. Wow, a lot in common already.
She does this so that she continues to receive monetary support from her late husband's family,
Sure.
who are fooled by this
Ooh.
boy disguise.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's going to work up until about 11. And then,
Well into Mary's teenage years did that work.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just waiting for the little balls to drop.
It's a late bloomer, this one.
Mary stayed dressed as a boy and found work on a ship. She later joined the British military.
Okay. Badass.
Yep. As
Let's
still
get
in her
down to
still in her
business.
man disguise. But then she fell in love with another soldier.
Mm-hmm.
So of course she like
Get out of here with
told
that
him.
gay shit.
Yeah, she told him what was going on, and they got married. And then she used the money she made from being in the military to buy an inn. But then her husband died like pretty early on in their marriage, so she started dressing up as a man again.
Oh, good.
Well, you know,
Pretending
old
to be her
habits.
husband.
Right.
Yeah.
And then she continued in the military. She just went back to
Right.
the military and kept working. Unfortunately, there was no war going on at the time, and so she didn't fucking have anything to do. Right? So she quit the
Stupid
army
Peacetime.
and she got on a ship going to the West Indies. So then on her way there, her ship gets overtaken by pirates. And so she's like, yeah, I guess I'll do this now. And she joins the fucking pirates.
Okay, all right.
I guess I'll do this.
Right? Yeah, but she's still...
Well, this is my life now.
Yeah, she's still dressed as a man. And so she joins the pirate crew. And so that was in like 1718.
Okay.
So that would have been like roughly around the time that Anne was meeting Calico Jack.
Okay.
So a couple years later, she joins Calico Jack's crew. So at this point, she becomes friendly with Anne Bonny,
Okay.
who thinks she's a man.
Right.
And so...
You have gorgeous lashes.
Right.
You have the cheekbones of a much younger man.
So Anne, I think within roughly a year or so, admits to Mary that she's a woman, and that she is, attracted to her, wants to start a thing.
Right.
And so then Mary now has to be like, oh, fuck, me too. What are the
Both pull up
odds?
their wigs.
At the same time.
And the whole
I'll show you yours if you show me.
Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Gang are there like, Anne Bonny, Mary Read.
Scooby-Doo.
So to make Calico Jack feel better about the whole thing, because he was jealous of he suspected them of being romantically interested in each
Right.
other, and that caused a good amount of jealousy. So to ease that, Bonnie told Calico Jack that Mary was a woman. And then not too long after that, both of them were pregnant. So we can
Wow,
only
Anne got married
imagine.
Little
pregnant. That's
pirate
crazy.
babies.
So you could only imagine that.
And both babies were born with peg legs and eye patches. I don't.
We haven't gotten there yet.
Oh,
So
buddy. Oh, God.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
There's more to the story. I thought. And then they all live happily ever after on a pirate ship.
I wish.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Okay, well, now it's a downer. You should have
Yeah.
gone second.
I'm so sorry. I'm not sorry. Okay. Okay. So. When they realize that they're pregnant,
Right.
like obviously that's going to start showing soon, and the rest of the crew still think that they're men. Right.
What the hell's going on here?
Yeah. So they
Oh, this one's smuggling cannonballs.
So they take Anne to I think it's what is now President Cuba. Hold on, let me look real quick. Yeah. And she gives birth to her son. So at this point it's a little fuzzy. They
Okay.
might have abandoned him there.
Oh no.
Listen,
Fantastic.
they also might have just left him with
Or a
other
tsunami guy.
family.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
They also may have sent
That'd
him
be
to
better.
a farm. It's hard to say.
the farm upstate.
Yeah. He definitely could have been
Raise
abandoned.
chickens.
So I'm sorry, I jumped ahead a little bit. At first, only Anne was pregnant, gave birth to a son. We'll come back
Oh,
to
okay.
this. Okay. So now they're all three pirating again,
Yeah.
right? But
That's what you want to call.
just three dudes
You know,
These
pillage.
three
pirating.
dudes
Yep,
are
just
pillaging
pirating.
each other.
They're the three best friends that anyone could have.
Yep.
Right. Real friendly.
So they spent the next 2 years, just pirating around, hanging out,
Yeah,
chilling.
you know,
They got a new
pirate
crew.
montage.
Yeah, so they did at this point
Sure.
get a new crew. But just guys being dudes, also being pirates. So in 1720, John Calico and his crew were attacked by a ship from Jamaica, which is where Anne's now ex-husband, where he was reporting on.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were captured by the ship. Unfortunately, most of the crew was too drunk to fight, so they were captured.
Well, yeah. That checks out.
This is kind of possibly my favorite part of the story. But Anne and Mary fought very fiercely and were actually able to hold them off for a good amount of time.
Damn.
But I mean, it was just them,
Right,
right?
yeah, it was just two people.
and then some drunk crew members who were sort of helpful, but not really. So they were taken to Jamaica, where they were convicted and sentenced to be hanged.
Oh, no.
All
Okay.
three of them. Anne Bonny's last words to Calico Jack were, "Had you fought like a man, you need not have been hanged like a dog."
Oh.
Boom, roasted.
Yeah, I'm pretty into that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, amazing. So I do think, though, that is how I'm going to say goodbye to people from now on, just in case that's the last time
Right.
I talk to them.
If you fought like a man, you wouldn't be hanged like a dog.
My dad's like, "What? I love you too." Bye, sweetie. So after being sentenced, this is when Mary and Anne both, quote, this is how they said it back then, I guess, pleaded their bellies in asking for mercy, which meant they were pregnant. They basically were like, "I'm
Right.
pregnant, don't kill me until I give birth." So unfortunately,
Boy,
Mary...
it's a pregnant man.
Yeah.
Two pregnant men.
So unfortunately, Mary died in prison, most likely fever from childbirth. There's no record of her child. There's no death record of her kid, so her child probably actually died before it was born, if that makes sense.
Oh, I got
Yeah, like she died
there
before
was no
she was
birth,
able.
so there was
yeah,
no death.
yeah, she was. She died before she was able to give birth, or a
Yeah,
tsunami.
or a tsunami.
Could be anything. Anne stayed in prison until she gave birth, but then was actually released later. So it's pretty much up in the air. Some people think that she died. Some think that she escaped. Some think she went back to North Carolina. There is no record of Anne Bonny's death. So definitely a tsunami.
She just vanished.
Yeah. But that is what I would consider a pretty sexy pirate story.
That is a pretty sexy
That is,
pirate story.
yeah.
That is that's two separate pirates getting pregnant multiple times,
It
and
is
then
indeed.
pirating around
Pirating.
and
Just guys being
you know
dudes.
doing the do with other pirates.
Yeah.
No.
Huh.
Just pillaging, yeah.
Hot AF.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all right. Hey, well, thank you guys for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Anytime.
You're
Anytime.
welcome.
Well, not anytime. Sometimes you're not in town.
That's fair.
But listeners, I tell you what, you can check us out on the internet. We're on Instagram and Twitter at AntiFictionCast. You can email us at antifictioncast@gmail.com. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Arr.
Arr.